What up, everybody? It's the Alex Leak and Friends NFL podcast back for another week. It's the 2018 offseason, week number 9. I got the crew with me. I got David Stoyo in Canada,
What's going on?
and I got Gavin Heslop in Oregon.
Howdy, howdy.
All right, lots to talk about, lots of news this week as we get closer to the draft. We're going to start with the Cowboys releasing star wide receiver Dez Bryant. A little bit of a shocker to some people. Dez says he was prepared to take a pay cut, but was never offered one. And he also blames Jason Garrett's people, saying they weren't professional and didn't like him. Um, Stars from most of the NFL franchises have reached out via Twitter asking Bryant to join their team. And so we'll see what Dez does going forward. Stoyo, what do you make of the Cowboys releasing Dez Bryant?
Interesting move. I thought he was going to last at least another season.
Yeah.
I would have kept him. He still has something left in the tank. He's just a big number one receiver. Yeah, I thought for sure Jerry Jones was going to be able to talk some sense into him, into taking a pay cut maybe, but apparently that wasn't even offered. So questionable move, I think.
Yeah, Stoyo, do you think that Dez is still? You just say he's a number one wide receiver. You still think he's a number one weapon, and do you think he'll get paid like it?
Uh, he's probably is in the lower tier of the number one wide receiver.
Yeah.
So I would say he still might get something like 8 to 10 million, but he's not gonna get paid top money like he would like.
Yeah. Gavin, what do you think about the Dez Bryant move?
It's really surprising to me that they didn't even try offering him a pay cut. I know they're kind of in cap hell at the moment, so it would make sense to release him for that reason. But they also are really depleted at this point at wide receiver. They have Cole Beasley and Terrence Williams might still be on their roster, but that's not someone to get really excited about for a young quarterback that's needing some good weapons around him to help him continue to develop. So it's surprising that they just flat out released him rather than trying to offer him a pay cut, which would have been what I thought would have happened. But yeah, I still think that he's going to get signed somewhere. I don't think he'll get paid the salary he would have gotten with the Cowboys had he just continued out his contract. But he's still going to get close to double-digit millions, I figure.
Yeah, someone will probably still pay him. There's a lot of need for number one wide receiver of any caliber in the NFL.
I could see him taking a little less, though, if he can stay in the NFC East, though.
Yeah, that's what
so he can get twice as much revenge.
Yeah, and he referenced that when he left, that he wanted to stay in the division. So that'll lower the number of teams that could bring him in. We all consider Jerry Jones to be a loyal owner. We usually say that he stands by his players, but guys that he has cut in the past have been names like Troy Aikman, Emmitt Smith, Deion Sanders, Larry Allen, and now Dez Bryant. Maybe this move for Dez Bryant opens up the door for a possible move for Earl Thomas. We'll see. And speaking of Dez Bryant, Stoyo, what do you think? Where do you think Dez should go? Do you think that the Giants would be a good fit for Dez Bryant to team him up with Odell Beckham, Sterling Shepard, and Evan Ingram?
Yeah, that would be a great fit, I think.
Yeah.
Especially now since Brandon Marshall was released.
Yeah.
That would definitely make life a lot easier for Eli. Give him another good weapon on the outside. Then again is, will Dez Bryant be able to be humble and not being the number one target? Which could be a difficulty, knowing.
Yeah, it'll be interesting if he does go there. Can he share the spotlight with a guy like Odell Beckham? Gavin, what do you think? Do you think that the Giants is a good fit for Dez?
I think it's a great fit. They just cut Brandon Marshall, as Story already alluded to, and you talk about two big personalities. Brandon Marshall, definitely created a reputation for himself for being a big personality, and he didn't have any issues with Odell Beckham, but I guess Beckham didn't really play last year, so maybe that was why it wasn't a big deal. But I think that for Dez, he's really interested in playing for someone that is going to play the Cowboys twice. So I think he's going to be motivated to either play with someone from the NFC East, and I think that the Giants is the best fit out of those options, or play for a real contender so that he can shove it in Jerry Jones' face, like, hey, I've got a ring. When's the last time you got one?
Yeah.
So I think, the Patriots is always anytime a remotely aging star is released, the Patriots are always in the mix for being signed, or for signing them. And I think it would be a decent fit since they already have a need for receiver. So
Yeah.
I think that could be a good fit too. And if he can keep his mouth shut and not be, but I don't feel like he's been too much of an issue in the last couple of years. Like, he really was second fiddle to Dak and Zeke Elliott over the last 2 years, and there wasn't a whole lot of grumbling from him for his reputation, at least as far as needing touches and that sort of thing. So
Yeah.
I don't think it would be an issue.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, he's definitely going to have a chip on his shoulder wherever he goes, and that might be good for Dez, and maybe he'll bounce back and have a couple Pro Bowl years left in him. Speaking of the Brandon Marshall move, the Giants releasing veteran wide receiver Brandon Marshall after just one season with the team, where he registered career-low 18 catches for 154 yards and 0 touchdowns in just 5 games before he injured his ankle and was ruled out for the 2017 season. The Giants saved $5 million with the cap on the cap with the release, and their GM Dave Gettleman was asked if the Giants are interested in free agent Dez Bryant, and he said, quote, "We are interested in everybody." So we'll see.
I'm available.
We'll see what happens there. Giants obviously looking to get better, so we'll see how that goes. The Bills guard Richie Incognito has changed his mind again. On March 15, Incognito reworked the last year of his contract to remain with the Bills. 2 weeks later, Incognito would fire his agents via Twitter at Athletes First. And then last week, Richie would abruptly announce his retirement from the NFL, citing high amounts of stress hurting his liver and kidneys. Now, days later, Incognito is asking the Bills to release him via Twitter and tells them to contact his former representation, Athletes First. Who knows what's coming next with the guard, Richie Incognito? What do you think of this story, Stoyo?
I don't even know what to say anymore. Who knows what's going to happen? I couldn't care less either way. Whatever you want to do, Richie, we don't care.
Well, I heard people say it. I mean, firing people and making these moves over Twitter is kind of like not the most professional way to do it. He seems kind of all over the place. Doesn't know if he wants to call it quits, change teams, restructure his contract, and stay home. What do you think, Gavin?
I could definitely see him wanting to change teams. They got rid of Tyrod Taylor. I think the team is still going to be in rebuilding mode. I don't know that he is interested in finishing out his career in that situation. But I think if he's worried about his liver and kidneys, he should lay off of the booze that he's on. Apparently, if he's hiring and he's retiring and unretiring and firing in the matter of 3-4 days.
Yeah.
All over Twitter. I'm pretty sure I know what the real issue is. Come at me, bro. But
yeah, who knows what Incognito's thinking. So we'll see what happens with that story. Eagles newly acquired corner Daryl Worley has been released from the team after he was arrested early Sunday morning after he was found passed out inside his vehicle blocking a highway. Worley was woken up around 6 a.m. and seemed confused and combative towards officers, so he was tased. A gun was also found on the scene, and the incident occurred near the Eagles team facility. Um, Worley was traded earlier this offseason from the Panthers to the Eagles for Torrey Smith, the wide receiver, and Worley is from Philadelphia, and but unfortunately he never gets to play a down as an Eagle. Stoyo, what do you make this tough story for a guy like Daryl Worley?
Yeah, it is, but at some point, athletes need to realize that they cannot drive drunk anymore.
Yeah.
And just don't do it. Especially when each NFL team has a car service available to you guys, so you can just call them up. You have Uber, Lyft. There's so many different ways that you can get away with not driving under the influence. And you can't do that during the off season. You just can't. And he had the opportunity to play for his hometown team, but now he won't be able to.
Yeah. Yeah, missed opportunity. I mean, I'm sure he was excited to play at home in front of his family and friends and be local, and tough way for him to lose his contract with the Eagles. What do you make of this, Gavin?
Yeah, it's really sad. I completely agree with Stoyo. They have a lot of resources from the team, and then also they feel like every player has some sort of group of friends that's always rolling with them, because who wouldn't want to roll with their NFL player friend?
Yeah.
So no excuse. I mean, I feel like everyone else in the world gets away with, or not, doesn't get away. That's poorly worded, but is able to drive. Go out, and if they want to drink, they can do that without having to drive themselves, without passing out in front of a highway. So.
Yeah, not ideal, and hopefully he learns from it and makes better decisions going forward. The Broncos release running back C.J. Anderson, who's only 27 years old, coming off 1,231 yards and 4 touchdowns in 2017. They had reached a verbal agreement with the Dolphins to trade Anderson, but Miami would eventually decline. Stoyo, do you see C.J. Anderson getting a job with a team going into 2018?
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
think he is a decent running back, and he has a few years left for sure. And I always liked him, so I hope he's going to get picked up and has another opportunity to play somewhere.
Yeah, I'm with you. I like C.J. Anderson, and I hope he goes to a good spot. Gavin, the Lions star defensive end Ziggy Ansah signs his franchise tag worth $17 million. Do you like this move?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's our best defensive lineman, and possibly our best defensive player. No, Darius Slay is that, but definitely need to have as much pass rush ability around as possible, and he's right now our only really dependable threat, and he is kind of injury prone, so that just shows you how bad our pass rushing situation is.
Yeah. I think it's a good move. Keep a guy like him. He's had a down year, couple years, or inconsistency, but he's still got the talent. Stoyo, former Steelers, Bengals, and Patriots linebacker James Harrison announced his retirement at the age of 39. He finished his career with 793 tackles, 84.5 sacks, and 8 interceptions. What a career, and do you think he's a Hall of Famer?
I'm not sure if he's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Maybe he is, maybe he's not. But it took him a bit to get it going. And he was undrafted as well, so maybe that took him a while to get through. But he's one of the greatest defensive players of his generation.
Yeah.
I think. So maybe he is going to the Hall of Fame after all. But I just don't like how he ended his career. I still can't get past him going to the Patriots. I think this is still a classless move.
Wasn't he released by the Patriots?
Steelers, but he decided to go to New England. So, fans are not going to appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on the record. I'm going to say he's a Hall of Famer. I mean, you can think of a lot of great plays that he's done. He was a major impact linebacker. We all immediately go to that play in the Super Bowl against the Cardinals where he returned that fumble for a touchdown at the end of the half. Um, I have no problem with the Patriots move. I think that he was released, and at that age, these players are just ring chasing. So I don't know, Gavin. What do you think of James Harrison's career?
Yeah, I think, just talking about the Patriot move, if the team isn't loyal enough to keep him around, I don't think he needs to be loyal enough to not sign with their biggest rival over the last decade. So I have no issue with that. As far definitely one of the best defensive players over the last 5-10 years. Played on one of the best defenses over that time with guys like Palomalu and that one giant guy with the beard on the defensive line who I can't think his name of right now, but definitely some great players there. As far as Hall of Fame, I'm not sure that he's going to be a Hall of Famer personally.
Yeah.
If you consider, first of all, he was before Vontaze Burfict, he was the guy to get fined for hits, and I'm not sure if the NFL is going to want to reward someone that was, established reputation for being fined and putting a guy like that in the Hall of Fame, at least certainly not first ballot wise. And then also, if you look at, what he was mostly known for being, someone that got to the quarterback, as a outside linebacker in the 3-4. And the only guy who played defensive end or outside linebacker in the Hall of Fame with fewer sacks than him is Howie Long.
Wow.
Which is a huge name, and Howie Long, they didn't even keep track of stats for Howie Long's first year, and Howie Long only has one half sack less than Harrison tracked. So you have to assume that he's got more, in his actual time playing. So when I look at that, I struggle to see him getting into the Hall of Fame, at least not for a little while.
Yeah, I wouldn't say he's a first ballot. I think he's a borderline Hall of Famer. But I also would say, you made a good point that the NFL will sometimes look at character issues or players that got in trouble on or off the field and let that go into the debate of whether they're a Hall of Fame or not. And I don't like those arguments. I think the NFL Hall of Fame should be stats and what you did on the field only. And if you had a dominant career and teams had to game plan against you, then obviously your impact was big in the game. And plus, he did it for a long time, had a long, productive career. I say all these guys, there's 4 guys that retired recently this week. I say all of them are Hall of Famers. Jets longtime center Nick Mangold signed a 1-day deal to retire as a Jet. He was a 7-time Pro Bowler. So he goes out as a Jet. Good move on his part. Stoyo, former Bears running back Matt Forte and kick returner Devin Hester both signed 1-day deals to retire with the Bears. You got to be happy about that. Forte combines for over 14,000 yards and 75 touchdowns in his 10-year career, and Hester combines for just over 14,000 return yards, 3,000 receiving yards, and 36 career touchdowns. Do you like both these moves by these guys?
Absolutely. Those are probably 2 of my favorite Bears in the last decade or so.
Yeah.
Devin Hester was just something else. The best punt returner and kick returner I've ever seen. In my opinion, he's a Hall of Famer. He should be one. He just changed his position.
Yeah.
The NFL had to change the rules of kickoff like 3 or 4 times during his career because he was just embarrassing people left and right.
Yep. Do you think that Hester, you just said Hester's a Hall of Famer, do you think Forte is a borderline Hall of Famer?
I don't think he is.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, if he would have kept it a few more years, he kind of retired early. He didn't even cross 10,000 rushing yards.
Yeah.
He should have done it another 2 or 3 seasons, and then maybe he would be in the Hall of Fame conversation, but I guess he felt that this was a good time for him to retire.
Yeah, and he's had a lot of injuries throughout his career, too, that probably weighed into his decision. Gavin, the veteran defensive tackle Dwight Freeney to retire an Indianapolis Colt after his 15-year career. He recorded 333 tackles, 125 sacks, and 46 forced fumbles. Hall of Famer, Gavin?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, a guy that played for that long, was really the only one of the two good defensive players for the Colts when they had their runs there in the early mid 2000s. Definitely a Hall of Famer in my book. He's a big enough name. He played for long enough, and he doesn't have the PR issues that Harrison did for the NFL. So
Yeah.
I say he's in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I would think so. Do you agree with that, Stoyo? Stoyo?
He's pondering. He's not sure. He's borderline.
Still keeps going in and out.
Absolutely. I think Dwight Freeney is a Hall of Famer. He's up there with the sacks.
Yeah.
He has a Super Bowl ring. He's just dominating his position in Indy for such a long time. I would say something like 15 seasons.
Yeah.
And that doesn't happen that often.
15 career seasons, 125 career sacks. Crazy.
Yeah, number 17 in sacks and number 5 in forced fumbles.
Dang.
Behind guys like Bruce Smith, Jason Taylor, John Abraham, and his teammate Robert Mathis.
That's incredible.
So that's good company to keep.
Yeah. All right. 49ers CEO Jed York says that linebacker Reuben Foster will not participate in team activities while tending to legal matters. Foster is facing 3 felonies for his February arrest. In the 2017 draft, the Saints were actually on the phone with Foster when the 49ers traded with Seattle to pick him. And Saints head coach Sean Payton asked to talk to Foster's girlfriend due to a recent charge of felony domestic abuse at the time. So the warning signs were there with Foster, but the Niners and John Lynch decided to pick talent over character concerns, and it's obviously come back to bite them. What do you make of that story, Stoyo, with the Saints and the Niners?
For me, it's very hard to ask someone's girlfriend to keep him out of trouble.
Yeah.
It's not up to an athlete's girlfriend to keep him straight. It's up to the athlete to do that himself. And I guess the Saints made a good move by not drafting him. And San Francisco thought that he was a risk worth a while, but it's always hard to tell with domestic violence and issues like that. So
yeah, and I mean, he's obviously talented. He put up the numbers this year. He put up the numbers in college, but he just can't stay out of trouble off the field. Gavin, what do you make of this story?
Yeah, it's really unfortunate that such a talented player has such issues off the field and could be wasting a great opportunity. And I think that the Saints are really feeling that they lucked out, and they actually had a really great draft with Marshawn Lattimore, Alvin Kamara, Marcus Williams, some really talented guys they drafted. So I think their draft could have been totally different had they drafted Foster instead of Lattimore. So
yeah,
they probably feel like they really dodged a bullet.
Yep, we'll see what happens going forward with Foster and the Niners. The Bucks tackle DeMar Dotson has surgery last week to repair a torn meniscus in his knee. He'll miss OTAs and minicamp, but expected to be back for training camp. Free agent quarterback Mark Sanchez has been suspended 4 games for testing positive for PEDs. Stoyo, I'm not sure what he needed the performance enhancing for, being a sideline coach for Trubisky last year.
yeah, it's always hard. I mean, sometimes you have to take those PEDs to run into your QB's butt.
Yeah, I don't get it. Gavin, are you surprised by the PED suspension of Mark Sanchez?
I'm not surprised he's taking some sort of performance-enhancing something or other because he obviously needed it. Needed it for pretty much his whole career. They finally caught him. but in all seriousness, it's unfortunate that it's just one more negative thing for people to look at Sanchez for.
Yep. Yeah, it's crazy. Vikings signed linebacker Eric Kendricks to a 5-year, $50 million extension, 25 guaranteed. So they're locking up their defense. Gavin, you might not enjoy this next story. It's been going around all week long. Former Patriots wide receiver and current Dolphins wide receiver Danny Amendola shared his thoughts on the Super Bowl benching of teammate corner Malcolm Butler. He said, quote, I have thoughts about it because I was out there putting my blood, sweat, and tears out onto the field that night, and one of our best players wasn't on the field. To tell you the truth, I don't know why. I did ask, but I didn't get any answers. I can't make decisions like that, so I don't necessarily worry about it, but I know Malcolm is a great player and he could have helped us win. For whatever reason, he wasn't out there. In my opinion, if this was a non-story, players and media would not still be talking about it. Multiple players, you got Gronk talking about it, Amendola, Dion Lewis. I'll never understand the decision not to have Butler on the field in the biggest game like that. And this might be a big mistake on Bill Belichick's part. That could have been Super Bowl number 6 as head coach. What do you think of this story, Gavin? Do you think there's any truth to it?
I mean, it's not like he gave us any information that we didn't know already. He said, I don't know why it happened. He didn't play, and we really questioned it, which is exactly what we've been saying since the start of the whole game.
Yeah.
So it's not news to me just because a guy has come out and said exactly what everyone already knew beforehand. This is the same as not running Marshawn Lynch in the last Patriots, or the two Super Bowls that the Patriots won. It's a questionable call by a coach that is going to get talked about because no one's going to understand it. The only difference here is that we haven't heard anything that even remotely makes sense from Belichick about it. But as far as I'm concerned, it's like you're 2 months too late. This is what we've been saying for the last 2 months now. So until you can come out here and say, well, this is why it happened, it's a non-story.
Well, that's what I've been surprised about. Right after it happened, we did a podcast and we were talking about why did this happen? Why was Butler not on the field? And we thought that at some point we were going to get someone to weigh in on it. We were going to get Belichick or Kraft or someone to be like, this is why he wasn't on the field. This is where he fucked up. This is why he couldn't be out there. And nothing's ever come out. Butler doesn't have any clue. His teammates don't have any clue. And Belichick won't talk about it. It's interesting. What do you make of it, Stoyo? Are you past it? Obviously, guys like Amendola and Gronk are not.
I'm definitely past it. I mean, it wasn't a big of a deal for me at all. I think it was just one of those gambles that Belichick made because he thought he had better matchups on D. It didn't work out. If it did work out, people would have praised him. What it would have taken to bench the best player they had. I don't know. I have a hard time just blaming Belichick because he has won so many rings. So yeah, maybe this decision didn't work out, and it's a lot easier to say when it's all over after the game. So,
yeah, but
pre-game is just, I don't know. I can't understand how the Patriots have been winning for 20 years or so. So whatever Belichick is doing is usually right. So this time, it just didn't work out. And I know Patriots fans are mad and their players, but it's over. The Eagles won. You guys have 5 rings in the last decade, so
it's interesting to me how one decision in the biggest game can affect franchises for years going forward. Seattle's still trying to recover from the Marshawn Lynch decision, not giving him the ball there at the 1. And this is still obviously affecting Patriot players. And it's interesting. There's a lot of scrutiny that goes into the Super Bowl game. And This one just didn't work out for Belichick, but like you said, he's got 5 rings to show for past wins. Gavin, the Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers would reportedly like to be more included when the team is making major personal decisions that impact him. Sources say Rodgers is, quote, frustrated over a lack of communication on moves such as firing quarterback coach Alex Van Pelt and releasing wide receiver Jordy Nelson. Rodgers told ESPN Radio, quote, I think it's pretty clear that players play and coaches coach and personnel people make their decisions. That's the way they want it, end quote. ARod is entering year 6 of his 7-year contract, and that has him very much underpaid for his position. And it'll be interesting to see how contract negotiations go in Green Bay going forward. Gavin, what do you make of Rodgers' comments and being frustrated with the Packers' moves?
I can understand his frustration. If he, we know that he and Jordy were close, and that he was one of his favorite weapons. So he definitely understand the frustration there. And I guess being the quarterback's coach, he must have had a good relationship with him. But I don't know. This isn't. I don't feel like there's any player in the NFL that really has the clout that to be involved in that way. This isn't the NBA where the best player, second best player can have that kind of say. And really, even then, that's just LeBron James that has that kind of say. And Kobe Bryant back when he was still playing. But Tom Brady is, doesn't come out, and we haven't heard him involved in making decisions like this. And I would put Tom Brady above Rodgers, though I definitely put Rodgers directly below as far as importance to the franchise and best player on the team. So I can understand his frustration, but I think when he says that GMs run the front office and the players play and that's how they want to keep it, it's like, well, yeah, I don't want to see not Ted Thompson, whoever the new GM is, out blocking for you. I don't think you want that. So,
Well, I would argue this. I mean, I would think that he doesn't. Only certain players, I agree, have the day-to-day abilities to make decisions with the franchise. But I think a lot of players, guys like Drew Brees, Tom Brady, even someone like Matt Ryan, I would think you want your quarterback to be like a coach on the field. You want him to be feeling his most comfortable at the quarterback position. So wouldn't you want to run past your star quarterback who you're building the entire franchise around? Wouldn't you want him to feel like he's comfortable with his quarterback coach? He's comfortable with his receivers. I mean, Jordy Nelson was his favorite target for years. What do you think, Stoyo?
Yeah, I agree with Gavin. I think it's a bit far out there that the star QB also needs to make GM decisions. I understand he's the best player at his position, arguably. But yeah, players need to stay on the field and be just that, players. They do not need to make any player decisions, I believe.
Yeah.
There's a reason why he has only 1 ring and Brady has 5. I mean, I don't know. It is the basketball mindset, and in football, it's not the same way. There's 12 people on the roster in basketball, and there's 53 on an NFL team, and you are way less valuable as an NFL player than you are as an NBA player.
Yeah, I'll agree with everything you said up until I think that quarterbacks are the most valuable by far on a team. You see Aaron Rodgers go down last year, and look where Green Bay went, to the bottom. To the bottom of the division, missing the playoffs.
Second from the bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't you forget where you are right now.
But I'm cool with it. Hey, if Green Bay wants to keep making dumb moves and keep Aaron Rodgers pissed off and maybe he'll leave, keep it up, Green Bay. I love it. I love the piss off Aaron Rodgers more. I'm cool with it. So we'll see how it goes. See what Green Bay does going forward. Penn State running back and top draft prospect Saquon Barkley and his agency Rock Nation, which is owned by Jay-Z, They said they don't want Barkley taking number 1. They don't want him in Cleveland, and would be much happier if he went second to the Giants to play in the media capital of the world. They say that's where you can become the face of the league. His manager implored him to pull an Eli Manning and demand that the Browns don't draft him. Rock Nation Agency then came out a day later and said that the report is false, but that doesn't mean it won't affect his draft stock. I have a crazy opinion alert. I think that Saquon is the best player in the 2018 draft, and I think he's going to fall, and I think he could possibly fall outside of the top 5. So we'll see how that goes. What do you make of Barkley and his agency making these, saying this stuff, Gavin?
I think it's pre-draft. Pretty much everything you say is going to be bullshit. So I'm not going to think anything of it.
Yeah.
The same, when they came out and denied it, I think that if they really truly wanted him to not be drafted by Cleveland and were going to try and use some PR stunts a la Eli Manning to keep him from getting drafted, I don't think they would have come out and said, "No, we didn't say that." Like you wouldn't go back on something if you wanted to follow through with it.
Yeah.
At least that's my opinion. So I don't think that they really said that. I think that was, I don't know where it came from. Pre-draft, there's so many lies and smoke screens thrown around that, for all I know, Cleveland, put it out there, or New York put it out there to try and get some more action for, trading their number 2 pick.
Yeah.
That would make sense too. So.
What do you think, Stoyo? Do you think that saying this can actually affect where Saquon Barkley goes, or is this all just pre-draft hype?
I think this is pre-draft hype.
Yeah.
Because I don't think he was going to get drafted first overall anyways.
Yeah.
And I'm not buying into it too much.
Yep.
I think he could be drafted first overall. I think if the reports were hearing about the New York being obsessed with Baker Mayfield and the Jets, that is,
yeah,
and the Giants wanting Sam Darnold if he falls, and we've heard rumors about Josh Allen and Darnold going to Cleveland. So if you've got Mayfield going to the Jets and you've got Darnold going number 2 to the Giants, that they have the number 4 pick, so they could get Josh Allen number 4 and for sure get Saquon Barkley at number 1. So I think that it's still a pretty decent possibility that he could go number 1 if they feel equally about the quarterback. Because if you like one quarterback better than the other, you take that one. But if you're kind of on the fence between the two and you're very confident you can get the one a few picks later, you get the one guy you might not be able to get.
Well, I will agree with you that I think Barkley is the best option in the draft. I would take him, probably number 1 overall, but I would argue that is not the last running back to go number 1 overall was 93, was Kajana Carter to the Bengals, and he didn't work out. And I feel like, especially nowadays, especially present day, teams are so quarterback thirsty that they're going to do anything to get that franchise quarterback, and Barkley's going to fall. And that's my prediction. He's going to fall to at least 5th, maybe 6th. We'll see. Gavin, you were just speaking about the Browns. What about this rumor? Cleveland is considering drafting a quarterback with the 1st overall pick and the 4th overall pick. Do you think the Browns should take 2 quarterbacks here?
I mean, if there's a 50% chance your quarterback's going to bust, by taking 2 of them, there's a 100% chance. And Cleveland, of all teams, needs to get a quarterback with their 2 top 4 picks. So, I think it totally makes 0 sense whatsoever. It'd be such a Cleveland move, though, to take 2. Then they'd both bust.
I know, right?
Oh, my gosh. It would be so awful. But, no, there's no way they take 2. Again, anything you hear pre-draft that seems ridiculous is going to be made up by some team that's picking high, that's getting people to try and trade up for their pick. So
yeah,
I don't believe this for a second. It'd be possibly the dumbest move made by any franchise, which would have to be made by Cleveland. No other team could make the dumbest move ever, but I think it's too dumb even for Cleveland.
Yeah, I just don't see the Browns GM doing that. I mean, that's pretty much like saying you don't trust your first pick, so you're going to get an insurance policy with the fourth pick. That's pretty much admitting that you don't know what you're doing in the draft. And you got the number 1 overall pick. Take the best player available. Take the guy you believe in. Stoyo, what do you make of the Browns' thinking here? You think they should take 2 quarterbacks in the top 5?
Actually, I think that Cleveland's gonna draft a QB at 1, and then's gonna move up from the 4 to the 2, and then get another QB.
You think that's the way to go? Just make
That's
sure.
the way to go, and have 2 QBs on the field at the same time, Cleveland style. No, I think
they haven't had a QB on the field in like 20 years. I don't know what you're talking about.
Hey, let's not hate on Tim Couch.
I don't know. In my opinion,
I'm just kidding.
The number 1 first pick should be Sam Darnold, and it should not be a running back. It should not be Josh Allen. And pick a QB first, and then whoever else you want at 4. But it has to be a QB. You cannot pick 2. You can just pick 1.
Yeah.
But make the right decision.
Yeah, that's the most important, Cleveland. Just make the right decision. You don't need 2 quarterbacks. A source says top draft prospect quarterback Baker Mayfield is a, quote, done deal to be drafted by the Jets unless quarterback Sam Darnold falls to 3, which none of us really expect. You guys want to do... We're going to do a mock draft of if the Browns are rumored to take Josh Allen with the number 1 overall pick. So let's say they do. Let's say the Browns take Josh Allen 1. If you're the Giants sitting at 2, who would you take? Gavin, who do you think?
Man, I would be tempted to take Darnold at 2.
Yeah, same here.
If he's still there, I think that he's especially with them having Eli that can still play at a competitive level. I think I don't think that he's for sure done yet. I also don't think he has a lot of years left. So you can get your Aaron Rodgers possibly, have him sit for a year or 2, and I think that the Giants are better than their number 2 draft selection. Makes them look like. If they had a down year last year, had some offensive line issues, which they hope to resolve with some big free agent acquisitions. So I think that they don't need to take, unless they think they can actually win this year, which I don't think anyone realistically believes that they can. I think that they can draft for the future. This is a rare opportunity to be picking in the top 2 for the Giants, and it's hard to get a franchise QB unless you're a crap team, as we've seen over the last forever.
Yeah, I had heard that the Giants weren't sold on Josh Rosen at 2, and I think that if Darnold were to go number 1 to Cleveland, the Giants would look at Saquon Barkley at 2. But if the Browns pull a Cleveland and draft Josh Allen, that means Darnold's available, and I think Darnold's the best quarterback available. Stoyo, do you agree? Do you think if Darnold is there at 2, the Giants should take him?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and the Giants should go hug the Browns' new GM for making the biggest blunder in recent memory.
You think it's that bad?
Yes, you cannot draft Josh Allen, first of all. You just can't. He has some of the worst accuracy in recent memory out of a top QB.
Yeah.
So I just don't see that being a good pick. So
it'd be almost as dumb as not drafting Carson Wentz and trading that pick away.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they've done it.
Yeah, they've done it before. I don't think it's that big. I don't think it's as big of a difference between Allen and Darnold. I think what Cleveland likes about Allen, he's got an extremely strong arm. So when weather gets bad in Cleveland and you're playing AFC North football, he can kind of fit in, but I do think Darnold's the better option, and the Giants have to jump at Darnold if he's there at 2. So say those two are off the board at 2. If you're at 3, I mean, the Jets are saying Baker Mayfield. Do you think that's a mistake, Stoyo?
I think it's a mistake.
Yeah.
I'm on record saying all off season long I would never draft Josh Allen or Baker Mayfield.
Do you think would you take Josh Rosen if you were the Jets?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's who I have on here is the Jets taking Josh Rosen. The Patriots have also been rumored to be interested in trading up for Josh Rosen. They have the 2 firsts and 2 seconds to make a move like that, or they have draft picks to trade up. What do you think, Gavin? If you were the Jets, would you take Josh Rosen, Baker Mayfield, or would you trade that?
They got to take a quarterback.
Yeah.
And with Mayfield and Rosen being available, I think they need to go with one of them. And yeah, I've been hearing lots of reports about it being Mayfield. So
yeah.
Even though I don't think it's the right choice, I'm just going to say I'm going to say Mayfield just because I believe that's what's going to happen.
Yep. I agree with you guys that I don't think it's a strong quarterback draft. I think that these teams are so quarterback thirsty that they're reaching. I would say Sam Darnold has your best chance to be successful, and I would take Josh Allen second. I'm not a believer in Josh Rosen. I'll go on record for that. And then I don't think the Jets is an ideal situation for Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield could be successful, but he needs to be in like a perfect quarterback situation. Maybe the one thing that would be beneficial for Rosen would be to get drafted by the Patriots, sit behind Brady for a year. We'll see. So if the Browns...
You don't think this is a strong QB? I think this is one of the stronger QB drafts we've had in a while. I mean, we don't have an Andrew Luck prospect, but I think that, over the last few years, this is the strongest that we've had.
I think it's...
pre-draft. Like, I don't want to talk about Jared Goff and Carson Wentz now, because pre-draft, there's tons of questions surrounding Carson Wentz because he didn't play for a big-name school.
Yeah.
So we can't look at Carson Wentz now and Jared Goff now. We have to look at them coming into the draft.
Well, I'll say I wasn't a believer in Jared Goff or Carson Wentz coming out, so I was wrong on that one. But I'm not sold on this year's quarterback. I think that teams are just thirsty. They need a quarterback. They need a franchise quarterback, so they're reaching. I would say that this year's there's questions about all of these prospects, quarterbacks, and I would say that there's a possibility that this could be one of those years we look back and say, hey, look at Josh Rosen drafted 3, the next Christian Ponder.
I was actually just about to say, I mean, this is not like the Cam Newton year where you had Cam Newton and then Jake Locker.
Yeah, Jake Locker, Blaine Gabbert.
Blaine Gabbert, yeah.
Yep.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. I feel like these are all, I'd take any of these 3 guys over anyone other than Cam Newton in that draft.
Maybe, but I just think that it's not going to be as successful as what these teams are hoping. At 4, all right, so the Browns just took Josh Allen. At 4, do the Browns need another quarterback, Gavin?
Absolutely, and they need to go with not a quarterback. I actually think that they can look. Wait, is Barkley on the board still?
Yeah, Barkley is still available. Dropped to 4.
Yeah, I think you got to take Barkley then. You could look at Chubb. I know they got Carlos Hyde, but he's had some injury issues over the years, so I don't think that I'd want to necessarily rely on him. And with ARod Taylor, he definitely thrived in Buffalo in part because of LaShawn McCoy and having a real running threat. So I think that Barkley being the best prospect in this draft, you take him at 4.
Yeah, that's what I would do. Or with all these teams trying to reach up and take a quarterback, they're so thirsty for a quarterback. If you get a good enough offer, I would consider trading down and give up that 4 for a team like the Bills, who are desperate for a quarterback, or a team like the Patriots, who might be trading up. What do you think, Stoyo? What would you do at 4 if you're Cleveland?
I would definitely not trade down anymore.
Yeah.
Cleveland has plenty of picks. They need to add talent to their roster. And I still have a Chubb for Bradley Chubb. So I would go for a Chubb for sure.
Yeah.
Even though Barkley would be tempting at running back, but having Garrett and Chubb
That'd be
on
crazy.
both edge would be a great defensive matchup for any DC. So that's what I would do with my number 4th pick.
Yeah, I'm thinking Flacco and Dalton are hoping that doesn't happen. And then that goes to number 5, where actually today John Elway announces that he's open to trading that pick. I have Bradley Chubb going 5 to Denver. But if they might be trading it, what do you think, Stoyo? Do you think that so you have the Broncos taking Chubb, or the Browns taking Chubb. Who do you think the Broncos should take at 5? Or do you think they should trade it like Elway wants to?
They probably want to trade.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll be able to get the QB that they want, and they have Case Keenum. So they're probably looking to trade down, or maybe get Quentin Nelson, which is unfortunate for me, but...
So, Stoyo, we all know a Broncos fan, and he thinks that they should take Lamar Jackson at 5.
Oh, God. Actually, I would prefer taking Lamar Jackson over Josh Allen, so there's that. But I don't know if that's the best pick at number 5. You could get Lamar Jackson, I feel like, as a top 15 pick. So you could technically trade down and still get him later in the first round. So do not get him at 5 when you can get him at 12.
Yep, that's a good idea. Gavin, what do you think about the Broncos at 5?
Yeah, I definitely think that they'll try and look and trade down unless they want to take one of the QBs. There's going to be someone with I think Rosen's left on our board still.
Yeah.
With Rosen still available, I think someone's going to be looking to trade up for him. I don't think it's the Patriots. Those rumors, I think, are ridiculous. If they trade up into the top 5 for a quarterback, they're essentially giving up on any
Brady.
More championships.
Yeah, and that's something that would piss off Brady for sure, I would think.
Oh, absolutely. But I mean, he hasn't told them for sure that he's coming back. So,
yeah.
They don't know. Which is another non-story that they made up about the Patriots. Anyways,
don't tell TK. He's probably somewhere freaking out right now.
Don't worry, TK. He's there. Alex hasn't told me that he likes to sleep with kielbasa in his ears, but just because he hasn't told me doesn't make it true. But no, I think that back to the draft, I think the Broncos, they look to trade down. If they do stick around, you got to look at either Chubb or Nelson. I think they're going to look Nelson, though. If they think Case Keenum has a chance of being their franchise QB, they need some better protection than they've had over the last couple years. So they get one of the best guard prospects that's come out in a long time.
Yeah, I would agree. The Broncos could use some offensive line help. All right, so that'll do it for our top 5. We'll do an in-depth first round mock draft next week, right before the draft. So we'll have everyone ready for that. Funny story of the day. In December, a Redskins fan wrote a personal letter to team owner Daniel Snyder, hoping to convince him to keep quarterback Kirk Cousins in D.C. He said, quote, "Please give Kirk Cousins a long-term deal that makes him happy to be a Redskin, even if that means making him the highest paid player in NFL history. Thank you," end quote. In response, the fan has received a signed photo of Dan Snyder. Gavin, would you rather have Kirk Cousins as your quarterback or a signed Daniel Snyder photo?
I'd much rather have Dan Orlovsky as my starting quarterback than have a Dan Snyder signed photo. If he didn't put little devil mustache on himself, it's not worth having.
How valuable you think this photo is, Stoyo? Would you be excited to have it?
It depends if you get that phone number. If there's that phone number in the back of the photo, then sure. He's a billionaire after all.
That's true. Yep, so that's what's going on in the NFL Week 9 leading up to the draft, which will happen next Thursday night. You guys have anything else you want to add?
Yeah, the NFL schedule for 2018 got released.
Nice.
And we got some pretty sweet matchups. Some revenge games from the playoffs of all things. So that's exciting. We got week 1, the very first game of the season. Got the Falcons at Eagles. So we got a nice rematch of the NFC divisional game there.
Nice.
We also got the other NFC divisional game, Saints versus Vikings. Also, and it's funny because both of those games are in the same stadiums as they were the previous year. So that's pretty exciting. We got some other ones too, like a couple revenge games, like Dez Bryant. We're assuming he'll play someone in Dallas maybe twice a year. Bradford plays the Vikings. Jacksonville and New England play each other. The Colts play the Patriots. They go up against Josh Mishandles. And Richard Sherman plays the Seahawks twice. So definitely be some interesting matchups for like some old rivalries or old veterans playing their former teams.
Yeah, now that the schedule's released, it gets me itching for some football to come back. Can't wait for it. Stoyo, what are you looking forward to in 2018 for a schedule? Are you looking forward to week 1 when the Bears play at Lambeau?
Yeah, that's definitely gonna be an interesting game to see where we're at.
Yeah.
Having a new head coach, a new system. Also, I'm looking forward for Thanksgiving. The Bears are gonna play the Lions.
Nice.
And hopefully, for once, we're going to be competitive, not like the last few years.
Man.
So it should be a blast.
Gavin, you can't be looking forward to that Thanksgiving meal. It can't be tasting as great when the Bears are beating up on Detroit.
The Lions beating the Bears is going to be the best Thanksgiving dessert I've had in a long time.
Lions are used to losing on Thanksgiving. So
well, we're
Thanksgiving with the Lions victory.
we're looking forward to it. It's gonna be an awesome 2018 season. We'll keep it up. We'll have some guests for you here soon, and we got the draft next week. So stay tuned. We'll have an in-depth draft episode for you guys. And don't forget to subscribe, like, or leave a comment. And have a great week. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Peace.